Prospects. It's easy to forget that prospects are really one of the big strengths of this organization right now. You've got Marco Luciano, who many consider already to be a top 10 prospect in the sport, even though he's just 20 years old, just turned 20 in September. And the Giants have a lot of other really good, really young prospects as well. And they've got some guys closer to the major leagues like Joey Bart and Elliot Ramos. So coming up today, we're going to look at Melissa Lockard's Giants top prospects list from The Athletic. We're going to go through it, and it's going to be a really interesting time talking about these great, young, talented players in the Giants system. So all of that next on today's Locked on Giants.
You are Locked on Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Giants Baseball, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide episodes 3 days a week for now, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, and I'm a lifelong fan. Thank you for making Locked on Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. And coming up on today's show, as I said, we're going to talk about Melissa Lockard's top 30 Giants prospects list, which came out in The Athletic a few days ago. Melissa is one of the better prospect writers that I've found. She's very knowledgeable of Bay Area teams and their minor league systems, and the Giants being no exception. And so I always look forward to her top 30 lists. And let's just jump right into it. We're going to start with number 1, according to Melissa Lockard, and it's not a big surprise. That is the 20-year-old Marco Luciano. And Lockard says, quote, "Not since Buster Posey have the Giants had a position player prospect with as much national recognition as Luciano. From the moment he signed in 2018, Luciano inspired dreams of the next great homegrown Giant. Thus far, he has lived up to those lofty expectations. In his first taste of full season baseball in 2021, he posted a .930 OPS with 18 home runs in 70 games for Low-A San Jose before being promoted to High-A Eugene. He struggled at the higher level, hitting .217 with 54 strikeouts in 129 regular season at-bats before finishing on a high note with a strong postseason. Luciano's struggles continued during the Arizona Fall League, where he was the youngest player in the league. He hit 3 home runs in 87 at-bats, but also struck out 28 times. He was particularly vulnerable to fastballs up and in and breaking balls away. Luciano isn't the first young hitter to struggle with those pitch types, and he's shown a capacity for improvement already in his young career. Physically, he has all the tools to be a superstar at the plate. Quick wrists, easy power that generates long drives to all fields, and a strong work ethic. Defensively, he has an above-average arm and soft hands, though scouts wonder if he will be able to stay at shortstop long-term given his height and muscular build. Even if he has to move to third base, he could still be an elite hitter at that position. Likely to start 2022 back in High-A, but spend a big chunk of the season in Double-A. So that was the full write-up there. I apologize for kind of the long quote, but I just thought it was definitely worth reading. Talking about, for me, honestly, it's good perspective. I'm not the number one authority on prospects. My kind of expertise is more at the major league level, but I knew that Luciano struggled when he was promoted to High-A Eugene after a really strong showing in Low-A San Jose. But, it's reassuring, not that Lockard specifically said but other people have said it as well, that, Luciano was very young for that level. And so we also saw Luciano in spring training in Major League camp in 2021, and he struggled big time. But you have to consider the level of talent that he's facing and the fact that everybody is older than him. And Luciano was the youngest player in the AFL this season, so his struggles are not a huge surprise. He just turned 20 on September 10th. So, I mean, he tore it up in low A San Jose this season in 70 games. He had a 373 on base percentage, a 556 slugging, a 138 weighted runs created plus. Strikeout rate was just 22%. Isolated power 278, 18 home runs, 5 stolen bases. He was caught 5 times, so that's not a great success ratio there, but 12.3% walk rate. So just really, really good numbers in San Jose for Luciano in his age 19 season, and then struggled, being one of the youngest players in High-A Eugene. So he's likely, like Lockard said, to start back at High-A in 2022. And if he can make it, if he improves and does well there, I just start dreaming on this kid. I know a lot of people already are, but then, gets promoted to Double-A, then he'd be really close to the major leagues. And you start talking about a major league debut in 2023 if he can get to Double-A in 2022. And so it's exciting. He has the tools to be a superstar, and especially if he can stick at shortstop. I think of like Carlos Correa when I think of big, tall, strong shortstops who also just have huge power. He's who comes to mind as a potential comp in like a best case scenario. Carlos Correa, speaking of him, he's available to sign. So why not go get the real Carlos Correa and then have Luciano turn into another Carlos Correa? How cool would that be? At third and short. You can only dream, right? You can dream on these possibilities. So coming up next, who's number 2 on this list? Is it Joey Bart? Is it somebody else? We shall find out. So stay tuned for that. But first, this holiday season, grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, or even better than a candy bar, Built Bar, filled with so much holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat, and high in protein. This is so important to me. I need protein bars, but I can't be having, 20 grams of sugar in my protein bar, and then they're like, why don't I just eat a candy bar that's high in protein? Built Bar is healthy and delicious. You really get the best of both worlds, and they have so many delicious flavors to choose from. I really, truly mean that. There are so many great flavors: raspberry, mint brownie, cherry, double chocolate, cookies and cream, and on and on. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. All right, here we go. We're going to continue talking about Melissa Lockard's top 30 Giants prospects list. We're obviously not going to get to all 30 today, but I do want to get through, maybe the top 5 or so. I think it's really interesting. There's been changes over the years, even though some of the players are the same and they haven't graduated to the major leagues. There's still, like Joey Bart. We're going to talk about him in a second. Where does he come in? What about Elliot Ramos? What about some of their recent draft picks? So all of that in a second. But first, thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. So coming in at number 2, this might surprise some people, but really if you've been paying close attention, it shouldn't come as a huge surprise. Number 2 is Luis Matos, center fielder, 20 years old himself. Actually, he's 19. He's 19 years old. Born in 2002. Unbelievable. Number 2 prospect in the Giants system. Center fielder Luis Matos, right-handed hitter and thrower, as is Luciano. So the write-up on Matos from Lockard, it's a little bit shorter, goes as follows. There's an argument to be made that Matos is the best pure hitting prospect in the Giants system, and it isn't a stretch to think that he could eventually overtake Luciano is the organization's top prospect. 4 months younger than Luciano, Matos spent all of the 2021 season with Low-A San Jose. He was spectacular in 109 games, batting .313 with a .358 on base, .494 slugging, with 15 home runs and 21 stolen bases while playing a solid center field. Matos only struck out 61 times in 451 at-bats. His bat-to-ball skills are among the most elite in minor league baseball and allow him to make decent contact on pretty much anything he decides to swing at. At some point, he will need to learn to be more selective when faced with advanced pitchers whose strategic miss pitches are harder to hit with any authority. But his ability to any type of pitch should leave him less vulnerable to high strikeout rates than most hitters. He's still growing into his body and could increase his power production as he matures. Matos is an above average runner and he should be an asset on the bases and in center field for the next decade. So yeah, the stock on Luis Matos is definitely rising. I remember talking to Mark DeLucchi, who's really into Giants prospects, prior to this 2021, and his big reveal of Luis Matos being his second best prospect in the Giants system was a very hot take at the time. And he had him ahead of Joey Bart, ahead of Elliot Ramos. I don't remember exactly who else he was ahead of that was at the time, but man, that proved to be a pretty good take, I would say, because yeah, in 109 games, Lockard spelled it out, but 21 weighted runs created plus. But what really stands out to me is the 12.4% strikeout rate, given his age, and you're talking about a 19-year-old playing amongst older players and just dominating and being really tough, hitting 15 home runs, stealing 21 bases, caught only 5 times, hitting .313. Yeah, I mean, you use more selectivity. We're talking about just a 5.7% walk rate, but when you have power and an ability to hit for average, and you play good defense, and you're a base runner, and you don't strike out, it's just a very intriguing package. So I completely understand having him at number 2 in the system. So moving on, number 3, not Joey Bart again. Eventually we're going to find Bart, but number 3 is actually a pitcher. So welcome to, a Giants pitching prospect, which they haven't had for a while, and I mean really good, and that is Kyle Harrison. Harrison was the Giants' third round selection in 2020, the weird draft in 2020 that was 5 rounds, something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. He was an overslot signing. So let's just read the write-up from Lockard. Quote, Harrison, a De La Salle alum, was an above-slot signing after he was selected in the 3rd round in 2020. He already looks like one of the best pitchers taken in that entire draft and could be the anchor of the Giants' rotation in a few years. In his pro debut, Harrison made 23 starts for Low-A San Jose, posting a 3.19 ERA and a remarkable 157 strikeouts in 98 and 2/3 innings, dominated in his only postseason start. Harrison was brought along gradually as an amateur, not competing in showcase tournaments until the summer between his junior and senior seasons. And we're talking about high school here. He had the reputation for being somewhat of a finesse pitcher in high school, but when he got to Instructional League in 2020, his fastball was up to 97. He maintained that mid-90s velocity throughout the 2021 season, and there's reason to believe there could be velocity to unlock as he continues to refine his delivery and gain muscle. Harrison utilizes a 3/4 release point that creates some deception for hitters, especially left-handed batters. His slider is a plus pitch, and the changeup improved as the season went on. Harrison's command can waver at times, like most young pitchers, but he wasn't overly wild. He'll enter 2022 as one of the top under 21 pitching prospects in baseball. So that pick was a little bit, there were some questions. As Lockard says, he was kind of thought of as more of a finesse guy potentially, but then he's up to 97 suddenly in the fall instructional league. And we suddenly thought, oh man, this guy could be much more than that. And then he goes to San Jose and just has an overpowering season. Strikeout rate of 35.7%. As Lockard said, he was a little bit wild. Walk rate 11.8%. But for a guy who was 19 and 20 throughout the course of the season, just to dominate the way that he did at that level, it's looking like a great pick already. And he has the potential to move somewhat quickly, I would imagine, after such a dominating year in low A. I mean, I would imagine that he has the potential to get to double A in 2022. That's just me talking, but if you dominate at low A and then you go to high A and do well again, couldn't you advance to double A next season? And then he's potentially, like Luciano, maybe 1 year away from the major leagues at that point. So we'll see. I would imagine that Luciano, Matos, and Harrison at least, and then we're talking about Bart and Elliot Ramos as well, these guys could all find themselves on top 100 prospects lists in baseball, and potentially all of them could be in the top 50. Like, I'm fascinated to see when people's, when these, Fangraphs and Baseball America and Baseball Prospectus come out with their top 100 lists, which shouldn't be too long from now, where all these guys land. I'm confident that all three will be popular choices among top 100 lists, and we're not done. So we're going to keep going here. Coming up next, we'll talk about number 4, number 5, and hopefully maybe number 6 as well. And man, this is like, we don't talk about this enough. The Giants have a vast, quickly improving farm system, and it is exciting. And the players we just talked about have the potential to be really good. So more prospect talk in a minute. But first, BetOnline has you covered this holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march through the college bowl season and the pro football playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, so don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, as promised, we are going to get to some of the remaining top prospects. I think Melissa Lockard does a really great job breaking down these prospects, and she's a big reason why I even subscribe to The Athletic. Always look forward to this content, so really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this list. So coming in at number 4, finally we get an appearance from Mr. Joey Bart. It's a pretty good sign when your number 4 prospect was a second overall pick just a couple years ago. It's also not a great indicator of the progression of Joey Bart's career. I think that his 2020 Major League debut hurt his prospect stock quite a bit. A lot of people considered him a top 10 prospect, certainly top 15 prior to that year, but then his showing in 2020 really hurt his value to some. And I'm not sure that's entirely fair. It was, after all, a very small sample, but it was that bad. So let's just read what Lockard has to say. Quote, "It hasn't been the easiest last 3 seasons for the number 2 pick in the 2018 draft. The 2019 season was interrupted by 2 broken hands caused by errant pitches. In 2020, Bart got his first taste of the big leagues, and it was a rude awakening as he struggled both with receiving and hitting big league pitching. In 2021, Bart's AAA season was once again interrupted by injuries, and he played in only 2 major league games. But those setbacks will all be forgotten if Bart can put together a solid rookie season for the Giants in 2022. With Buster Posey now retired, Bart is expected to earn the majority of starts behind home plate. He should be better equipped for that role in 2022 than he was in 2020. He's improved his plate discipline, laying off more of the outside breaking balls and inside fastballs that caused him problems in 2020. He's also smoother behind the plate in the Giants' preferred one-knee catching style than he was when it was newer to him in 2020. Bart's game calling and throwing are already assets defensively. Offensively, he may never hit for Posey-like averages, but he has above-average power for a catcher and should be a run producer. Strikeouts will likely always be part of his offensive profile. So it's not the most attractive kind of write-up for Joey Bart, but at the same time, we have to understand that, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at this. Number one, the catcher position is very weak offensively in the major leagues. And so you don't have to hit like Posey to be a good major league catcher. But at the same time, I just have concerns about the plate discipline. I mean, what we saw in 2020 was a 2.7% walk rate in 33 games, 111 plate appearances, 2.7% walk rate, and a 36.9% strikeout rate. I'm trying to find the raw totals. That came out to 41 strikeouts for Bart and 3 walks. 3 walks, 41 strikeouts in 111 plate appearances. So obviously you can't be doing anything close to that if you want to have success in the major leagues. And part of what concerns me, I mean, his walk rate in 2019 in AA was 8%. Small sample, it was just 22 games, but 8%, okay? And then after that, his major league, his next professional experience, because there was no 2020 minor league season. So his next kind of quantifiable professional experience was that 2.7% walk rate in the majors. This year in AAA, his walk rate was just 7.5%, which is not terrible. It's not 2.7%, but it's not great either. And the strikeout rate was 29.4% in AAA, which is actually a very hot offensive environment. So Bart hit 294, 358 on base, 472 slugging, but it was just a 107 weighted runs created plus. It was just barely above the league average offensively there, because league average is inflated because it's a very hot offensive environment. And so I'm just concerned about these numbers. He also needed a 398 average on balls in play just to get to those numbers. And so I have my concerns and doubts about what it's going to look like if he's just given most of the playing time at the catcher position. And this is why I continue to say they need to do more to make sure they're prepared in the event that Bart struggles again at the major league level. Because what do? Do you just send him down? And if you send him down, you currently only have Curt Casali, and that's not enough. You would need a second catcher at that point. So this is going to be a huge storyline in 2022 and beyond. Obviously, I hope Bart has success. I just have my concerns. And the downside is what we saw in 2020, and that downside is unplayable, and you'd have to send him down in that case. So number 5, it's not Elliot Ramos, but it's Will Bednar, who was the Giants' first-round pick this season. He was the 14th overall pick by the Giants. We'll just quickly read the write-up, and then we'll wrap it up. But Lockard says it was a dream season for Bednar, who led Mississippi State to its first College World Series title, winning the tournament's Most Outstanding Player award. He was then selected 14th in the draft by the Giants. After a heavy college workload, Bednar was limited to just 7 innings after signing, but he was dominant as expected, and he threw well in side sessions throughout the summer. Bednar was a workhorse for the Bulldogs, and he has the potential to be that kind of starter in the big leagues. He has a durable frame and a clean delivery. The ball comes out of his hand easily, and his fastball can touch 97 while sitting in the 93 to 95 range deep into his starts. He has 2 different breaking balls that he can use to change the hitter's eye level, and the potential for a solid changeup. He is a fierce competitor who seemed to elevate his game in college as the stakes grew higher. Bednar could start next season in High-A and could reach Double-A by the end of 2020. So that's fantastic. And I liked what I saw out of Bednar and watching his highlights from college. I love the competitiveness that he brings to the mound. He's a big guy. He kind of looks the part. And first round pick, and I'm just excited to see what he can do in 2022. So that's the top 5 according to Melissa Lockard. Let me know in the comments below if you think that that's correct or what you would change about this top 5 list. We will continue talking about this probably next week. We're 3 episodes a week for now. We're going to do a mailbag next week, and we're going to talk more about this, and we'll have something else for you as well. So once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It really helps me out a lot, so thank you in advance, and thank you to everyone who's done so already. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, have a great weekend. I can't wait to see you again next week. And as always, stay locked on Giants.